Right. Now that we are done with the logistics, let's get to the exciting part. Welcome again to this first session of our 25-26 Literacy Workshop series. Back to school for the whole family. Build your reading tool belt. We are excited to dive into resources and tools to support your children and family with reading and literacy tonight. My name is Molly Maloney, and I am the Director of Policy and Data at Go Public Schools, and I'll be facilitating tonight's session. At Go, our vision is for schools to prepare every child, regardless of ethnicity, income, language, or zip code, to succeed in our rapidly changing world. We know that building strong literacy skills is a vital part of this. Our mission here at Go is to amplify the work of families and their champions to promote and advocate for educational equity in our schools. Tonight's session is designed to help empower our families and their champions to advocate for their children's reading progress and literacy journeys with a great tool. We'd like to start by hearing from you, though. Two quick questions that we will put into our poll. First, how comfortable are you with finding literacy resources for your family? And second, how familiar are you with the Oakland Reads website, which we'll be learning about tonight? I'll give everyone a few moments to chime in. Seeing a range of comfort in finding literacy resources and with experience with Oakland Reads, from never having heard of it to used it a lot and everything in between. So I think we'll have a lot to learn from tonight. Leave it open for just another minute. All right, there's going to be a lot of newcomers to Oakland Reads tonight, I can tell from our poll, which is exciting. A quick preview of the results there. All right, so now I am so thrilled to bring to you our presenters and their fantastic resource tonight, which we know is going to be so helpful for our families on their literacy journeys. I am excited to introduce to you Julia Sen and Annette Onate Castro from the Oakland Literacy Coalition, where they work on the Reading Everywhere program and on Oakland Reads, the amazing tool we'll be exploring tonight. Julia and Annette, before you jump into the content tonight, can you please tell us a little bit about yourselves? And I'm going to stop sharing so we can see you and transition.
Hi, everybody. My name is Julia Sen, and I'm from the Oakland Literacy Coalition. I'm our Reading Everywhere program manager. Super excited to be here with you all. I've been working on our Oakland Reads website for the past 2 or 3 years, and I've been with the OLC for 4 years. I have a background in early childhood education and early elementary education and working with families, and a passion for literacy and helping families get the tools they need to support their kids, because families are our children's first teachers and most important teachers. And I'll turn it over to Annette.
Hi everyone, my name is Annette. I am Oakland Literacy Coalition new program associate. This is my second month, almost going to be my second month with the OC. I graduated with an ethnic studies major this past May, and I'm excited to share this resource with you all.
Can everybody see my screen? Okay, great. All Right. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the Oakland Literacy Coalition. We are a small but mighty team working together to ensure that every Oakland child learns to read and loves to read. We believe that reading is a civil right, and we're working together with districts and families, educators, nonprofits like Go to make sure that we close the reading achievement gap. Yeah. So tonight we'll be talking about Oakland Reads, which is an online resource hub for families to use to support their children's literacy development. The website was really born out of some workshops that we did with families, where families told us that they wanted more resources to be able to help their children at home, and they wanted to be able to understand what their child was learning in school in terms of literacy and how reading works. So we developed this website. We will spend some time exploring the site together. You can, if you'd like to follow along, you can follow along at www.oaklandreads.org or scan this QR code, but you can also watch, and I'll do this on the screen, and then we'll share all this information with you later. So this is our Oakland Reads site. It's available in 6 different languages. So you can go, when you first get there, you can go and choose your language that you want to explore it in. There's also a search bar if you ever don't remember any of the things that I told you tonight and you want to find something, you can put it in this search bar, and it's pretty helpful to finding things. There's also a video you can watch here that sort of walks through how the website works. But I'm going to go on these main menu parts, and we'll start with how reading works. So in how reading works, we have a page called the Reading Skill Overview. And this is information about how we learn to read. We've broken it down into 8 main reading skills, and there's a page for each one of those. So these are the skills that we know that children need to learn to become successful readers. They span across the grades, and each one of them has a name that describes it in family-friendly terms, as well as what teachers refer to it as. So you might see on your child's iReady report, phonological awareness, and ask yourself, what is phonological awareness? So we've renamed it here, knowing sounds in spoken language. So let's just go with that one. When you click on a reading skill, it will take you to one of these pages, and it will have an explanation of that reading skill, what it means. There will be some videos that you can watch to explain that. And this one has different activities that you can do to support that. So these are some videos, and then a whole bunch of different activities that you can do at home. Some of them have videos to explain, some of them are more just like spelled out that way. But these are great places to start with if you know specifically what kind of reading skill your child needs help with. And we always tell people, the best way to find that out is to talk with your child's teacher and find out what they're doing great at and what they could use help with. So the next part of the menu is the age and grade level milestones. And either one of these 2 first ways of exploring the menu will kind of take you back to the same place. But this is a different way of getting there. So these are key academic milestones which children need to master in order to move on to the next step in reading. So you can go to any of these pages. There are literacy milestones for pre-K to 5th grade and more general milestones for younger children. So I'm going to go, for example, I have a 5th grader. And so I'm going to go click on the 5th grade milestone page. It's going to be broken down into 3 different sections. So milestones are broken down by the different trimesters that are the reporting periods for the report card. So fall, winter, and spring. And each of those will tell you different things that children are working on in their grades. So this is what their teachers know that they are working on with children. They're planning their lessons about this because these are the places they're trying to get their students to by the end of the trimester and by the end of the year. You can also see that some of these will go to a reading page. So if I clicked on this, it tells you what reading skill this milestone is part of. And if I clicked on that one, comprehension, that would take me to a comprehension page, which would go back to the reading skills. We also have this area called reading concerns. There's information here for families. Oh, sorry, this might pop up. For families to ask questions and get more information when you're concerned about your child. So we often, I think because people in my friend group know me as somebody who knows about literacy. They come to me and ask me like, what, I have a concern about my child and I don't know how to talk to my child's teacher, or I've talked to them and, or I've talked to the doctor and they told me everything was fine. So there are some like first steps for going through what to do if you have a concern. There's also some little like scripts that you could use if you want to ask for help. We really encourage families to try these out, to bring as much information as you can, but you're the expert on your child. And we really know that waiting and seeing and waiting for everything to be okay and work itself out, it doesn't always work. And so the more we can advocate for our children, the better. So on these pages, there's information. There's a whole page about dyslexia and also what the process is if you're concerned to start working towards maybe asking for assessment, maybe not, but at least gathering a team. We really encourage families to gather their team, become a team with your child's teacher, with the school. Last section of the menu is the reading at home one. And so there are 3 different parts here. We'll go into decodable books and story time videos later, but these are things that more tangible things that you can do at home with your children. And there's also a page for book recommendations. So these are another passion of mine is finding great children's books. So these are all children's books that we have found and we recommend. So then they're broken down. There's like an Indigenous and Native American book list. It's not loading now, so I'm not going to scroll down anymore, but I think it will just take a minute. There's an African American book list, all sorts of book lists, and more on the decodable books and story time videos that we will go into later. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing that one and I'm going to go back here and turn it back over to Molly for a minute.
Thank you, Julia. So now that we've explored a little bit about how to read, how to use the Oakland Reads tool, we're going to have time to answer your questions. So please add questions to the Q&A, or if you don't have access to that, add questions to the chat. And while you're adding in your questions, we are going to start with a few questions that we received prior to the session to get us started.
I'm going to stop sharing so Annette can share, and then Annette will take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Annette. And we can go to that next slide. All right, so one question we got. My child has to do independent reading for their homework. Every night we have a fight about this. How can I make this process easier? I know I've heard a question like this many times. Annette, how can we answer this? And how can we use Oakland Reads to help us with this?
Yes, so thank you for reading the question and for Julia going over the Oakland Reads site. So first, let's get curious as to why your child might be reluctant to read on their own. So a possible answer is they are struggling with reading the book, and that's because the book might be not at their reading level. So how could you know if that book is not at their reading level? First is the process of decoding, if they're struggling with decoding, which is, sounding out words or if they need help practicing their letter sounds, sentence or words. If you feel like your child is, struggling with decoding, you can reach out to your child teacher and talk about finding books that they're just right, just at their level. Another resource is the phonics and decodable page on the Oakland Site Reads, which I will go over as an example. To find the decodable page, you would go to the reading at home section, and then under there is the decodable books. Sorry, it's like you have to hover and then it's there. Um, so with this, um,
Yeah.
you go down and you scroll, and here are the different phonics skills your child may need support with. And so, for example, on this slide right here, we have the practice VCE, which is vowel, consonant, E words. So when you click on there, it gives you an example of what VCE words are. And then if you scroll down, these are all the different books and short articles related to that specific vowel, to that specific literacy skill. So for example, that we have here, it's the My Slime is Alive. So once you click on that, it shows you to this flip book here, and it's really interactive. You know, you can click on here, and then it gives you directions as to what sound you might be looking for, and helping your child's development with this specific skill. So right here it says like time for silent E, and look for words that have that. For example, we have slime, and alive is another one. So you can have your child read that to you, or you read with your child as well. Just more example of how the books look like. Okay, so that's one way the Oakland Read site can help. Another thing we recommend is take the time to make reading a habit. With a daily routine, you can see an increase of your child wanting to read with you, or reading by themselves. So this could be like after school or before dinner, whenever you both have time to read together. We recommend finding a space that is distraction free. So no TV, no music, no tablet, anything that will distract your child from reading. Also, if you're starting to, do this daily habit, we recommend that you start with, short and would start short and not just, start with a 40-minute daily, maybe 15 to 20, and then slowly increase that as you continue creating this daily habit. Um, Another curious question to ask yourself is, are they struggling to understand what they are reading? So the first one was, are they able to decode the words? And now it's, are they understanding? So if this is the case, once you start to establish that reading habit, you will read with them. And then once you do, you can take turns reading pages, sentence, depending on your child's grade and level. So comprehension is a skill which is the understanding of this component. So you should pause frequently to ask questions and define vocabulary words. Again, Oakland Reads has a page for comprehension, which is a essential literacy skill, and I will show you another website, another page of the comprehension we have. So this will be located under the How Reading Works, and then under the Understanding the Meaning of What's Read. So as you scroll down here, it gives you the definition of comprehension, and there are videos for you to watch with your child or with yourself, to understand the different waves of comprehension. And then we also have activities included. A really one that I used a lot, and I know a lot of educators have used, is the five finger strategy, which is, using your hand and asking like characters, settings, problems, events, and solution. For example, like who was in the story and like where did the story take place, etc. It's a great little quick, easy, interactive comprehension skill you can engage with your child. We recommend doing this like after you read a page or like the whole entire book. It depends really, on the level. Aside from comprehension, we also recommend asking the question of if the books they're reading they're not interested in, and that is okay if your child is not. And this is where we, as parents, as educators, we will try to help them find a specific book that might intrigue them. For example, they might like soccer and they want to read books about soccer's. I know there's a lot of nonfiction books about players such as Messi that they can easily find. Another is if they have a favorite animal, they can read about penguins. There's a lot of different ways that you can intrigue your child in finding a hobby or book that they will read. Another thing we recommend is getting a library card. They are free. With a library card, you can always ask a librarian um, for more assistance in finding a specific book. Also, graphic novels are really trending with kids these days, and audiobooks is another way where you can practice your reading with them. Another resource is the Sora website. So the thing about Sora is it is a district usage, so many schools districts in California use Sora, including Oakland, West Contra Costa, and Fresno. So check with your district how you can log in, and it looks like this. We do have it under the comprehension page once again. If you scroll down, the Sora page is right here. But once again, check in with your district to see the steps to log in. Regardless of their age or reading level, all children benefit from being read to either by an adult or audiobook videos. There's we have the storytime videos here under the reading at home next to the decodable books, and down here we have, oh no, it's not loading. Okay, so here we have all these story times of individuals reading these books. One we would like to shout out is the Tandem Bay Area Multilingual Storytime. They have a great selection of videos in English, Spanish, Cantonese, and Arabic, and much more. You can also find activities that guides the multilingual story time with these specific videos. And yes, so that's another resource the Oakland Read website has. And then our last advice to help your reluctant reader is make reading fun and rewarding. So this could look like the following. The first is praise effort and not just completion. Another is using voices to act out characters and read with expression. An example is if you see an exclamation mark, maybe you can read that sentence with excitement, depending on the context of the sentence. Um, Another is share what you notice your child did well. For example, if they got stuck with the word and they took the time to fix their correction or engage in questions of what this word means, you should praise that effort and having your child continue doing that skill. And also the last is ask any questions. If you watch a story time video or you read to them, ask them what their favorite part was and why. Not only is this practicing the comprehension skill, but also you're going to learn more about your child as well. And so now I will pass it to Molly once again.
All right. Thank you, Annette, for all that information. And in case you were wondering, we will be sharing out some recap later on and links for you to follow up on later if you didn't get all of that, because there was so much there. So now we have another question, And reminder, before I ask it, you can put in the chat or in the Q&A your questions that you have about your child's reading or how to support them. But here is another question that we received. I feel like my 7-year-old is not on track with their reading, but I am not sure. What should they be able to do at this age? And I think Julia is going to help us find out how we can know if our kids are on track or not.
Hey, this is back to me, and I'm going to ask if, oh, I gave you away the answer. I was going to ask you to put in the chat if you remembered what page it was, but I accidentally went forward. So here's the answer. We have the milestone pages, which outline essential grade level literacy skills. So let's actually look at the milestone page for 7-year-olds. So if I was going to do that, I would go to Oakland Reads and I would go and I would say if I have a 7-year-old, it's like first or second grade. Let's go second grade. And then I can go down to the milestones and see that this is what they're working on this fall. So I can see they should be able to read at least 180 high frequency words. They should be able to read and write words with 2 syllables. They should be able to read and recognize 30 sight syllables. And I can go to any one of these reading skill pages for more information. On the high frequency words pages, there are lists of the most common high frequency words and ways to teach. There's all sorts of new exciting ways to teach high frequency words that are not just based on memorization. So that's exciting. So this is a great place to look at. Also, if you scroll down to the bottom of any of the milestone pages, there are some videos that you can watch about what reading and writing should look like at that particular age. And they have actual kids reading or writing, and then somebody talking about what it should look like. And they're also right down here in Spanish. So those are in English and Spanish on the site. One more thing we recommend is if you go to if I have a second grader and I'm looking at this page and I just know off the top of my head, like my child cannot do these things, that's okay. Then I would go back to the previous grade's milestones. So this would take you back to the first grade milestones, right? And we want to start with our children where they are, not it like, okay, you should be here today, right? I want to start with them where they are now and support them where they are now and build with them from there. Okay, let's go back. And I think this is all just the same. So we'll go to the next question.
All right, another question here. At our parent-teacher conference, we were told that the area my student's working on with our daughter is reading fluency. But what does this mean, and how can I support with this at home?
Right, so let's talk a little bit about what fluency is. Fluency is knowing how to read accurately, quickly, and with expression. So fluent readers are able to read as almost as if they're talking, right? And when we hear I think the easiest way to explain what fluency reading is to explain what it's not. And it's not what a lot of children do when they're first beginning to read, right? They're not fluent yet. And so they're sounding out, they're going word by word. They might sound like a robot, right? They might not stop at the period or not know that it's to change their voice when there's a question mark. So we're looking for accuracy. Are they reading the words correctly? Rate, are they reading not too fast and not too slow? Are they reading with expression and feeling? And then punctuation, are they stopping and starting and changing their intonation? So let's back up a little bit and talk about what it actually takes just to read one word. So here is the word. For most of us who are fluent readers, we're going to see this word and it's in our memory and we know that that word says bat. But for a beginning reader, there are so many things that go into it, right? So the first thing we do is we see the word And then we need to be able to, so that's where the I is, and then where these lips are means that we're going to sound out the word. So we're calling that segmenting each phoneme. So each unit of sound. So we would, so a child who's learning to read would go b, ah, right? And so those are more skills, knowing each of one of those things. And then the next thing to do is put it all together. So we call that blending, right? So put those three sounds together and be able to say bat. After that, the child needs to learn to think about, okay, what is that word and what does it mean? And sometimes there's context, right? We don't know if this bat is a bat, the animal, or a baseball bat. So those are just all of those things. Imagine that you're doing that for every single word, right? It can get to be a lot. So I wanted to show you what our children are being asked to do, right, is pretty quickly is not just look at one word. They're not just being asked to look at the word bat, right? This text could be kindergarten or first grade. This is like a sample decodable text. So that you can see this is about 8 lines, right? It is decodable, but imagine if you are a beginning reader and you're still trying to have to sound out each one of these words and then put that together, read it fluently, and then also understand it. So there's just so much that goes into reading, and it's not impossible, but children need a lot of help when they're in this stage to really practice and practice and practice to get fluent. So this is, I made a little chart here. So we know that sometimes if our students have Annette talked about this, if our child has a text or a book that's too hard for them, it can be overwhelming, right? And they're not going to be able to read it. So sometimes we need to back up. And if I give my child that little text about that bat, and it's overwhelming to them, and I can tell that their brain is starting to shut down after a few words or a few sentences, that I can back up. So the first thing I would do is think about which one of these levels are they at? Should I back up? First, I would back up to the sentence level, for example, and say, let's just look at one sentence. So I put in English here, bats can flap and zip, and then I just put an example in Spanish too. If they can do that, then I might have them practice a few sentences, right? If I can tell this is hard for them, then I can back up even more and have them practice reading words. So here are some examples of words that I just might go along with that, right? And then if that's even hard, then we might back up even more and have them just practice letter sounds. And all of this, we call it retrieval practice. Being able to get this information quickly is going to make it sticky in their brain and make it easier for them to remember, so that they can build. And when they have their letter sound, when they start to become fluent in their letter sounds, then you can go back up, right? You can work up to word fluency. And once they're fluent in word level reading, then you can work up to sentence level fluency. So just some recommendations about fluency and what kind of text is using. It's good to use a familiar one. So one that they have read before will be easier for them to be fluent with, and one that's at their independent level, and to have them reread the same text multiple times. It can be really hard to know what kind of text is appropriate for your child, what level they're at. So this is another one where I would really recommend talking to their teacher. Their teacher might be able to send home resources. They might be like, oh, I can tell you exactly what, this is our hope. We hope that teachers will be able to tell you, this is exactly what we've been working on. This is the one they're reading this week. This is what level they're at, and that you can use their resources. If they're not totally clear, if they haven't done an assessment super recently, then there are other ways to find out. And we have a place on our phonics page on the site where you can go in and have them look at individual words and kind of do a quick assessment to find out what level do you think they might be at. So on Oakland Reads, there is a fluency page, and it looks like the rest of the pages. So it's got videos that explain it, show you how to practice fluency at home. So again, I would get there by going to how reading works, and then going to knowing how to read accurately and quickly, which is fluency. And then there's also activities that you can do to practice fluency at home. One of the things that we have on there is Reader's Theater, which is like little scripts, and there's some resources on the site too that have links to Reader's Theater. So little scripts that you can read with your child. You can take turns reading, and then really it gives you a chance to work on not just like the decoding part of fluency, but really like the expression and the intonation too. There's also in the decodable books section there. So there are decodable books that we talked about that you could use to practice fluency, but we've also just added a whole section that goes along with UFly, which is the curriculum that Oakland just adopted for foundational skills. But these, just like the site, just because these have Oakland in the name doesn't mean that it's not applicable to anybody. Anybody in the state can use this site. The standards are the same. And so this curriculum is being used in Oakland, but it can be really helpful for anybody. So this is a little game called Roll and Read, and there's lots of these for different phonics skills. And we even have a little, so you play it with a die, and there is even a little electronic die on the page that you can roll if you don't have one at home. And I find that kids love this, and they love that it's a game. There's all sorts of different ways you can play it. I found in doing my research that I was playing it the most boring way. I was like, here, child, like, the student I'm working with, like, you roll a die and then you read the whole list under that number, and then I'll roll it and then I'll read some of the list. People have such great ideas for this. They're like, you can play different forms of bingo. You can read them all in a row. You can put paper clips and you can do diagonal. So there's some great videos on there just to get different ideas. And this is another way to practice word fluency. Okay, so that is the end of our questions that we had prepared that we knew coming in. I'm going to pass it over to Molly in case there are more questions that have come back in.
Yes, we have some questions. I want you to leave your screen sharing in case you need to pop into the Oakland Reads website while you're answering. So first, just a logistical question. Do you need to register to view or access Oakland Reads, their menu, the resources? Is there anything like that?
Great question. No, you don't. There's no registration or anything. There is a link at the bottom, I believe, that where you can sign up for updates. If you love the site and you want to learn more, we have a monthly mailer that goes out, but just to use the site, you don't need to register or anything like that.
Great. Thank you. Another question came in. My child often asks me how many pages or chapters he should be able to read in a 15 or 20 or 30-minute reading exercise. I told him it varies based on the type of book, length of chapters, etc. But he either stops too soon, feeling accomplished, or repeatedly asks how much time has passed. What can I do to help him enjoy the process instead of trying to finish fast or just get it over with? Any ideas there or any places on the site?
A great question. I have a fifth grader, and his teacher, it has a new thing that haven't seen before, and she's having them read 30 minutes and 30 pages. And so this is just one idea. And so she says, if you read for 30 minutes, if you haven't finished 30 pages in that time, keep going until you finish 30 pages. If you've read 30 pages, but it's been less than 30 minutes, keep going and read until you get to 30 minutes. And I like that there's flexibility in that. My child has really adapted to it. And today he was like, well, I read for 30 minutes, but I have 2 more pages, like until I get to 30. He appreciates that challenge. I think there's also children who that would be, that's going to be there. Children get very attached to like no, but I did the 30 minutes. Like I am done now. So you know your child best, but I think if it was my child, I might show them different kind of books and like practice reading with them, just like a chapter book versus a graphic novel, and say, look how fast this graphic novel went versus look how much longer it took to read the chapter book. And that's both of these are okay. Like reading is reading and it's great. Sometimes it goes faster and sometimes it goes slower.
Right. Thank you, Julia. It's great advice. And yeah, that 30 for 30 sounds perfect for fifth graders. Obviously, the numbers will be a little bit different for some of our younger friends there. All right, a few other questions that we got in. I had a couple questions about older students. What are some recommended materials for middle school students if they're reading at an early elementary level so they're not bored or embarrassed? And someone else was asking about how can I better support my child in reading as they enter high school? I know Oakland Literacy, you do a lot early literacy. Does Oakland Reads have any places to go for older kids?
That's a great question. This site, we say that it goes up to fifth grade because that's where our milestones go to. But especially if your child is a little behind in reading, there's still lots to go to use here and can be very applicable for especially the vocabulary and comprehension. Those are things that are applicable, especially once children learn to decode, then it really becomes a lot about vocabulary, background knowledge, and comprehension. So I think a lot of that stuff is applicable to students as they get older. I would take a look at the milestone pages and just see how your child might compare, um, and see where to go from there. There are also, I think, a great person to ask, it would be librarian or teacher. There are specific texts out there called like high low, so high interest but lower text complexity, and they're specifically made for older students who are still learning to read so that they don't feel like they're reading books for babies or for younger kids, so it takes some of the embarrassment out of that. um, and I think some of the things that are on the Oakland Reads site might be some of the decodable passages. There are ones that get harder, and but without being too much, it's still like two paragraphs. So they get a little harder in terms of complexity, but they're not super overwhelming. And then there are some great ones for older students that have a lot more that are like more science based, which can be really fun for older students too, learning about planets and science and things like that, that have still like, I think the word is like controlled amount of text,
Mhm.
but that it doesn't feel like a book for kindergartners.
Great, great. Kind of a follow-up question. Someone's asking in the chat, how can I help a middle school child that has a reading disability? And we could maybe extend this also, how can I help my child with a reading disability? Are there resources on Oakland Reads you can show us for families in that situation?
Yeah, I would start at the dyslexia page. Let me take you there. Oops. So if I'm on Oakland Reads, I would go to reading concerns and I would go to this dyslexia page. Obviously, not everybody who has a reading um, disability has dyslexia, but I believe it's 1 in 5 children, so it's fairly common. So there's information that you can learn about here about what is dyslexia, what are the signs, and what are some of the concerns, or things to look out for. I think that's a great place to start. Go actually also did a webinar in the spring about the screener that's being rolled out across California now. So schools now are doing a screener with all students, at least in elementary schools, for
K through
to
2.
oh, K through 2. Thank you. To sort of screen for for possible signs, that it's not like a automatic, like you got this score, you have a learning disorder or disability, but to look for signs that children might be struggling or might struggle in the future. I think even though that's for K through 2, I think it can be a great place to start also, is to look at some of those and find out what kind of things your child might be struggling with. Is it decoding? Is it some sort of like processing, And this is really where I think asking for help at the school and talking to other families whose children have been through this and have been through the process, can really be so helpful. There are resources on the site, for the North Region SELPA, which I forget what it's called right now, but it's like special education parents. They have a great handbook and talks all about your rights as a parent and what you can do to advocate for your child and what their rights are, and gets down to like really nitty gritty to like if you've requested an evaluation and you've been told by the school your child doesn't need an evaluation, even though they're in 7th grade and they can only read at a 2nd grade level, like it will give you very specific information on what your rights are. And I think, yeah, there's just lots of resources out there. This is a great place to start. And I think just being curious and being willing to ask questions and asking the school, what is the program that you are recommending for my child? And then doing your own research at finding out, like, is this program that they're recommending for my child or this class, what has this been proven to help children who are struggling with reading?
Right. Thank you, Julia. Another question in the chat. Are there any specific resources for English learners at Oakland Reads?
Hmm. I think I would say the whole thing is built with English learners in mind, because so many of our students in Oakland and California are English learners. So, especially, I would say some of the younger grade things for like early for 0 to 5, a lot of what we know about what is good for children of any grade is a little bit easier when they're younger because there's still so much that they can do that involves play, and you build so much vocabulary and so much background knowledge when you get to play and do hands-on activities, and that is great for children as they get older, but it's just a lot more built into preschool programs. So I think that might be a good place to start, to just look at some of the things that are recommended there. Um, yeah,
Julia,
I
could
think,
you also show us again how to access the website in other languages?
yes. Yeah, so if I'm going to go to the top to language, and then I can change it to Spanish, for example. And then some of the page I was thinking about is the earlier milestones. There we go. So I might go to like the 0 to 2 milestones and look at some of the ideas that they have there for like talking, reading, singing, rhyming, and ideas like that for really for developing English, but also working in your home language. We know that it's really important for children. The more that they know in their home language and the more vocabulary they know, the more they speak in their home language, the more that is going to transfer over to English. So I would say don't be afraid that you have to do everything in English. There's so much that you can do in your home language that will transfer over. We'll give them the base.
We had a related question saying we're a bilingual home, English, Spanish. We alternate between books in those languages. Do you think this could cause delays in our child's reading or impact comprehension? And we had someone else with a similar question there.
Yeah, this comes up so much. I can say that my children go to a bilingual school. I have a fifth grader now and an 11th grader who went to a bilingual school all the way through middle school and just finished at the Spanish program in high school. And I know that, and I also taught bilingual education. And so this question comes up so much. And my understanding is that the research says that no, like children, the bilingual children are able to differentiate between two different languages, right? And switch back and forth. Even when we do, like when we're speaking Spanglish, for example, like there is like the bilingual brain can differentiate that those are two, we're mixing those languages. But I think being explicit, we know when I'm in teacher mode and when I'm sitting down with kids in a classroom and I'm switching from one language to another, I always go, okay, let's switch our brains to English, let's switch our brains to Spanish, just like to give them that context of like, okay, this is a different language.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you, Julia. I think we are running out of time there, and thank you for asking so many questions and answering so many questions. I think we're going to be moving into our wrap up here. All right. First, Julia or Annette, before we go into all our announcements, anything last that you want to share tonight?
I just really want to thank you all. I hope that you will check out the site and use the site. I took a screenshot of the poll results, and I am excited to see, that how many people have used the site before. If you are somebody who has used the site a lot, we would love to hear your feedback. We're doing some one-on-one like phone calls or Zoom meetings with people for like 20 to 30 minutes. If you've used this site like 5 to 10 times or more and you have some feedback that you like to share with us. So feel free, my email address will be at the bottom and you can feel free to contact me to do that. And there's also a link at the bottom of the Oakland Reads site where if you've just used it once or twice and you have feedback that you'd like to share, that you can do that too. And so that will take you to a short Google survey. For the one-on-one survey, we have a small gift card that we can give you. And then for the Google form survey, we'll raffle off a gift card.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Uh, all right. Oh, and we also have someone sharing in the chat about some other opportunities. So we can send that in our follow-up email. And if we could go to the next slide there.
Now I'm sharing screen, but I don't know how to get out of this. So how about I'll stop sharing screen?
Perfect. That works as well. All right. I'm going to take back over and share my screen there. Just a moment, everyone. All right. First, as you saw, we have our other survey. Just wanting to know, how are you feeling now? How comfortable are you with finding literacy resources? And an optional question, what is one thing you learned today or that you'd like to do or try from today's workshop? So I'm going to leave that poll going so you can work on filling in that answer if you'd like, and then we will go through a few of our announcements. First, at Go, we've put together an online literacy library. On this website, you'll find our Gaining Ground literacy reports, the videos and recaps of previous literacy workshops. That's what we'll be posting this video soon, as well as a series of accessible one-pagers that we've created on a variety of topics. So please check that out. Tonight, we focused on how to advocate for your child's reading growth. If you are interested in starting to work on broader advocacy around literacy systems or outcomes in your community, we invite you to join one of our literacy community-led committees. We currently have groups in West Contra Costa and a new group in Fresno. You can let us know if you're interested, or if you're interested in exploring a group in your community by filling out this Google form with this bit.ly. Next, we have some opportunities from OLC. Julia or Annette, do you want to tell us about those?
Yeah, so we have 2 October webinars for you all to register and join us. The first one is with Specialist Celestina Lee on October 9th from 3:30 to 5 p.m. Celestina will go over the essential vowel of schwa, and if you have not heard of this vowel or would like to know more, it's a great webinar for you to join. And the second one we have with Renata Archie. This was on October 20th from 11 to 12:30 and p.m. And so she will go into depth into Universal Screener and the essential early skills it reflects. Um, other Another big announcement is our fifth annual Literacy and Justice for All Symposium. Um, Tickets will go on sale. Early bird tickets will go on sale September 2nd. So keep your calendars marked. It's a 2-day event and where we promote effective literacy practices and with amazing speakers and amazing events. I've added the links below to the webinars, to the symposium. Also, you can scan the QR code. Thank you.
Great, thank you. If you have not signed up already, I encourage you to join our mailing list to stay connected with all of our Go programming, including our parents' guides, our data reports, and our next literacy workshops. Our next one will be coming up in November. A few other resources you might be interested in. Last fall, we released our Forward Together, a parent's guide for reclassification. We will be releasing an updated version in November, but the current edition still has a wealth of information that can be useful if your child's an English learner working on becoming reclassified. You can also check out our Parent's Guide to Special Education. We have editions for West Contra Costa, Oakland, and Fresno, but the bulk of the information in these would be applicable to any California community. And in just a few days, we'll be releasing our newest edition of the guide with a new chapter on autism. And so we will drop a link in the chat where you can find the guides and where the new edition will be posted soon. And finally, a reminder to please fill out our closing survey to be entered into our raffle. We're going to be raffling off a great book for families about how reading happens in the brain and how to become a strong reader. And so make sure you fill out the attendance as well. So we've got your contact information, and we will be contacting one of you to send you your prize via Amazon. And that has got us to the end of our presentation tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming during this busy back to school time of year. And thank you so much to Julia and Annette for sharing your amazing website with us. It truly is just a great resource, and I was so excited we could share it with our families, whether in Oakland, Wisconsin, Costa, Fresno, or anywhere in California, because it really is just a phenomenal resource. And thank you everyone for coming tonight.